Patrick, I want you to take a look. Let's take a look at the statement of Senator Santorum, the original statement, because it has two components. He says, if the Supreme Court says you have the right to consensual, which means gay sex here, sex within your home, then you have the right to bigamy, you have the right to incest, you have the right to adultery, you have the right to anything. Now, in my judgment, what he was making two statements, one a moral statement and one a legal statement. Let's take the legal statement. What he's saying, in effect, is if the Supreme Court rules that the Texas law has to be overthrown, the Texas law saying sodomy, male sodomy, for example, is illegal, he says on the grounds of privacy in the Ninth Amendment to the Constitution, if you use constitutional grounds to say that consensual sex among adults, consenting adults, cannot be, is protected by the Constitution, then you cannot outlaw incest, could you? Between an adult, say a 19-year-old woman and her father? This is the point he's making. I think it's the only point he was making.
I'm shocked, not as a leader of a gay and lesbian organization within the Republican Party, but as a conservative, to suggest that the police in America in the year 2003 should, under the law of any state, be able to enter a home and arrest people because of some consensual activity between two adults, to me, is outrageous.
Okay,
it's anti-conservative.
All right, it's anti-conservative. Then you say there should be no laws against incest among adults, right?
Well, certainly. We clearly oppose incest, and I know that's a very patriotic position to take. And adultery as well. If we're going to start criminalizing and putting people into jail for adultery, we better start building prisons overnight, because there's going to be a whole lot of prison overcrowding. The reality is it's unconstitutional and un-American and not conservative or Republican to suggest a police power that does that.
Patrick, you've challenged my conservative credentials.
I don't think anyone could do that. In fact, I wouldn't have my job.
Let me ask you this, look. Why would you, now the Texas law may, look, I don't think cops ought to be running around doing this. They ought to be protecting people.
I agree with you.
Now, however, conservatives believe in federalism, in states' rights. They believe in people deciding these things, not arrogant judges at the Supreme Court. Why don't you go down there and try to change the law in Texas, change it in Massachusetts, democratically? Why would a conservative go to the Supreme Court and say, listen, say the Ninth Amendment says they can't do this, that the people can't do it?
Whoa, Pat, let him answer.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to decide which case would be before the Supreme Court, but we should note something. 37 states have overturned the sodomy laws, including the state of Pennsylvania. Rick Santorum's own state recognized a long time ago this is not the purview of government or police powers. So while we support an overturning of the remainder of sodomy laws across the country.
Judicial fiat?
I don't care how we get.
Well, you don't care how. That's the end justifies the means.
37 states
that is not
have done
conservatism.
it, and Rick Santorum's own constituents live in a state where the government has chosen that's not a proper
but the whole issue here, this isn't about overturning sodomy laws. I mean, I would be interested if Patrick would answer whether or not he does hope that then this case will be used as precedent if the Supreme Court rules for Lawrence, overturning the sodomy law. If you hope that the future courts will use it as a precedent for instituting gay marriage.
There's one hope in this case, and that we will end a silly, ridiculous, liberal law which suggests that the police can enter the homes of American adults.
But do you hope the Land Legal Defense Fund goes further and asks for gay marriage based on due process, based on equal protection? Because that's it. They've admitted themselves that that's what they're hoping to do. I mean, I've been to panel discussions where that's exactly what they admit. So that's what it is.
We're a conservative Republican organization, and thanks to Pat Buchanan, I have a job, because his speech in Houston helped develop our national office. But our hope is that we can find fairness and equality even for conservative Republicans in America.